Okay, episode 9, let's talk about the United Nations. So, this war was a proxy war in the Greater Cold War, and it revolves around a resolution 435, which effectively would force elections into the area in Southwest Africa, stroke Namibia, and this was up to the voting of the American and the Soviet blocs in the United Nations. So on this screen, what you'll see is a results of a vote taken on 435, and you can see there's 384 votes for the American side and 316 for the Soviet side, which is a 55% approval rate onto the American side of the conflict. So the United Nations is the mechanism in which this game's actually going to get decided. So your victory conditions are all based on the United Nations. When an election is called by the United Nations, the SADF will withdraw from Southwest Africa and Angola, and a United Nations peacekeeping force will then come in its place, and you'll have another 8 turns, and thereafter the elections will be held, and whoever wins the election actually wins the game. So it's a very important mechanism to keep track of and to see what sort of trend you're doing. So looking at this, we're obviously doing okay because it's in our favor, otherwise it would be below 50%, but it needs to be at least 65 and above percent to give you the option of actually implementing 435. So on the right hand side here, you've only got the option yet to postpone 435. If you were over 65, there would be an opportunity, a green square here, which would give you the opportunity to actually implement it. And the minute you implement it, it starts the end game ticking, and then you've got 8 turns, then there's election, and the game is then decided. Also, if there is an impasse after 45 turns in the game, there will automatically be called an election. So this game can't go on forever. The longest it can go on for is 45 turns. But you do have the option of postponing or electing if you're greater than 65% approval. You've also at the bottom here got sanctions. So every time the United Nations meets, they'll impose more sanctions on South Africa. So which, in effect, what that'll do is it will raise the cost of all units by a certain percentage. So here, everything now is going to cost 1% more. So this is just another way of forcing the South African player to actually implement 435 sooner than later. Right, so there's no option here. All we can do is postpone. So we click postpone and we get back into our situation report. And let's see what we've got. We've got some new FUPLA movement, increase in mine operations reported. There's a vehicle immobilized in the field, and we have some low sector base supplies. So let's look at the strategic map and see what's going on. Right, so at the top we can see that we have let's go into the map itself. We've actually got enemies sighted here. Here we've got a BDRM from the 21st, and we've got another one from the 21st, and we've still got the Swapo base. This one is dug in, so they're anticipating some kind of attack coming forward. Here's another truck that's heading somewhere, and I'm assuming that truck might actually be heading towards this base. We can maybe deal with it with one of these special forces operation units we've got here. We can either call an airstrike, or maybe we can even do it with an artillery strike. We'll see in a minute. Going back to the strategic map, we're still busy with the operations here, and if we click on our tracking button, you can see we're busy tracking in this area. So we're moving these troops in this area to try and figure out where these insurgents are. Back to the strategic map. I think everywhere else otherwise seems to be fine. So let's proceed. I think let's deal with the situation in Angola first. So starting in Angola, the main priority here is to destroy this Swapo base. If you destroy a Swapo base, you have a few positive results. One is you get a really good boost in your political points, so you'll earn more currency to spend on other military operations. It also serves to retard the number of Swapo units being generated every turn. So you're almost breaking their strategy. So by destroying a base, it takes it out of action for about 3 or 4 turns, and then it will spawn again somewhere else on the map. So it's really critical that you hunt these bases down and then you destroy them. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to, first of all, we're going to bring our special forces in a little closer, and we're going to call an airstrike on the base. So we click on airstrike,
airstrike. Over.
and we click on the base, And there comes the airstrike. Right, now we then go to the Rattle, which is currently carrying infantry, and we mouse over it, and we've now got an 84% probability of destroying this base, which is a fair enough odds to take. You can see that we have at the bottom in gold, we have the airstrike button in gold, which tells you the bait has just had an airstrike. The dagger in the wreath indicates that there are special forces near. These are all positive combat modifiers. And the tank with the 3 stars is a mechanized armor assault, which means there is a Rattle and infantry involved in assault. So I'm now going to then click on the base and assault the base.
Contact enemy base. Over. Enemy base destroyed. Over.
Right, so we destroyed the enemy base, and we have now a good result for us. And we have not used the artillery. So I think with the artillery now, we're going to bring the artillery in, and you'll notice now that this artillery fire support button has now turned red. If it's white, it means you can't fire. The fact that it's red means you can fire, because you've now got enough action points and you've got enough ammunition. So let's go and target this VDRM. So we click on that, it loads, it's in its range, we hover over it, it shows us that we can attack it, and we fire. Okay, so we didn't destroy it necessarily, but there certainly has been some sort of damage taken on that vehicle. We can fire again because we have enough action points. So I think what we're going to do is maybe fire again at the target, hover over it, fire. Okay, so we're just kind of weakening it at the moment, but we haven't managed to destroy that particular vehicle. Right, so that's the combat ongoing inside Angola, but the main objective has been achieved, that we actually did manage to destroy the enemy base, which is it's a real breakthrough. It really does. You can see our points have jumped up to 8,000, which gives us other options we can now use. Right, so this is the truck. It's working its way along the path. I think we can just put our special forces in the path, and we can keep track of where that truck is finally going. So that's kind of what's happening up in Angola. If we look at our administration, which is keeping track of our political points, you can see last turn we got a penalty of 700 political points for being in Angola. For every turn that we have SADF units in Angola, you will get a political point penalty. And the longer you stay and the more units that are there, you will get even greater penalties. Units like Special Forces don't incur a penalty because they're Special Forces and they're largely undetected. It's when you put conventional forces into the field that you start paying a penalty. So bear in mind, what you want to do is generally get in, achieve your objective, get the units back into the base, collapse the base, and go back home to South Africa to avoid further penalties. Right, while we're still in Angola, let's just have a look and see what our UNITA units are up to. We've got one over here. I think we need to just move him into the village. And we've got another one over here, which I think we're moving towards this village. Remember, they can resupply in villages, so it's quite useful to sort of leapfrog from village to village and pick up supplies as you go along. They don't really have a logistics network per se. If we go back into Jumba and we go and try and recruit units, you can see now these 2 units are available to be recruited because they've completed their training period. So we're going to click on that one and click on that one, which means they're going to be now inside the base. Next turn we can deploy these units into the field. Right, so I think that's enough for Angola. Let's go have a look at Sector 10 and see what's going on. If we just click down here or use the left control button, we can get a view of, right, this is where we're trying to track some enemy here. So my first action is I'm going to move these troops towards the tracks and see if I can pick them up.
We have picked up tracks. Over.
Right, so we picked up some more tracks. So let's just see what's going on here. So there's definitely something happening in the area here. We're not sure what it is, but let's just keep moving in this direction.
We have picked up tracks. Over. We have picked up tracks. Over.
Right, so now we have this strange pattern of tracks. We're not sure where it's going. So there's a number of possibilities. One, it could be coming from a arms cache deployment here and then moving up and then moving across and going there to maybe lay mines on that road. That's a possibility. Or it could be a unit that's coming from this side from an arms cache moving down this way towards this village. So we don't really know. So we're going to have to kind of saturate the area with troops. I think what we're going to do with this particular vehicle is maybe bring him. I think we'll do a quick search around here.
We have picked up tracks. Over. We have found an arms cache. Over.
There we go. Fantastic. So we picked up an arms cache. So what happened is if we click on this button here, the troops came down from the north by a truck, went to a swapper base, probably like the one we destroyed, but maybe one closer this side, and then they deployed to an arms cache. Now the arms cache, after the arms cache, they're going to leave the arms cache and they're going on a mission. So what this is telling us is there's definitely going to be enemy activity in this area, because if the arms cache is up here and the tracks are heading this way, the enemy is going to be in this area. So what you can do is close that circle, go back to the marker, go back into maybe this vehicle here and remark the map with green smoke. Because now when we go to the map, you'll see it's moved the marker down here, which is telling us this is the area we should be focusing in. Right, so on that score, we are going to bring the helicopter into play. Here's the helicopter and it's fueled up, and we deploy the helicopter, and we're going to move the helicopter in to the contact area, which is around here. So let's get the helicopter as close as we can. Right, so now with the helicopter, you've got this button over here, which is the helicopter supporting fire. What you do is you push that button, the helicopter will do an automatic search of the area around it, and if there are enemy in the area, it will actually shoot at them with its machine guns. But there is one condition that needs to be met, is that this helicopter has to be within close proximity to a ground unit, which is like the forward air controller. So let's just see if we push this button.
No contact with observer. Over.
It's telling us there's no contact with observer. So in other words, there needs to be a ground unit, a combat ground unit close enough to give instructions. So let's move the helicopter a little bit closer. And if we now try the button,
no contact with observer.
Still can't. So we can go a little bit closer in.
Searching the area. Over. Enemy sighted. Over.
Right, so what happened there is, because we had this ground unit close enough, so you've got to be within 1, 2, 3 hexes of a friendly ground unit, then you can call for fire support. Then the helicopter scans the area, and if it does find an enemy, it will engage it like it just did. So if we go back to the strategy map and we zoom in and we then take off these units just to get a clearer picture, what you can see here is this is the contact that's unfolding. That is the arms cache. This is the path that we've managed to uncover, and this is where helicopter actually had a contact. It doesn't mean there aren't any more there. There might be more enemy in that area. So definitely going to keep searching in this area. So there's a typical way a contact would generally unfold. You kind of pick up tracks, you bring troops into the area, you try and triangulate where the enemy is going, and you bring as many assets to bear into that area to actually have a go at preventing those insurgents from completing their mission. Right, so that's quite a lot. We had a lot of contact in Angola, and we had the first contact inside Southwest Africa. So I'm going to leave this particular tutorial at this point, and we'll pick it up again in the next one.